Hey, Roger here. Our biggest online event of the year is about to happen where we take a volunteer, put them in the hot seat, build the retirement plan on air, and then share the results with you live. This is all coming soon, and you can register for Retirement Plan Live at livewithroger.com. Retirement is one of those points in your life when maybe for a long time, you're able to organize your life exactly how you want to. And we're going to explore that today on the Retirement Answer Man Show. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is Roger Whitney. I am your host. And this is the show dedicated to helping you not just survive retirement. No, we want you to rock retirement by making a lot of intentional decisions. Welcome to 2021. I'm excited for this year. I hope you are too. I am also excited because today we are starting Retirement Plan Live, our case study we do with a listener where we talk with them throughout the month on air to try to create a wireframe to build a retirement plan so they can have some visibility on what is possible and what they might want to focus on. We've done this 6 or 7 times now, and today you're going to get to meet Trish. Trish lost her job. She was laid off after almost 30 years at a company. So she was institutionalized at this company, and now she's trying to figure out where does she go from here and where do her and her partner go from here in terms of retirement. So we're going to get to meet her today, and we're going to talk with her throughout the month about their goals, their resources, their net worth statement, about the non-financial things. And on the 28th, we're going to have a live get-together with Trish and you maybe, where we're going to look at the wireframe we created for her retirement and start to play around with how they might be able to navigate this season of life. So that's going to be really exciting. I love these things. But before we do that, let's talk about what do we mean by begin with the end in mind? Your last day on earth, the person you become meets the person you could have become. The question is, will they know each other? Will they be strangers to each other? Or maybe there'll be twins, identical, maybe fraternal twins. Is this not really the point of retirement planning? When you retire, you get to organize your life to express the person that you are and want to become, what you want to represent your life during this phase. I think it's an interesting way of looking at it of, well, will the person you could have become know this person? The whole point of retirement planning is you've worked decades saving and investing and taking risk and denying yourself in various ways as you've built things and built your career. Now's the time you get to use these resources to express who you want to be or become. Really, it's not who you want to be because you are that person. It's really maybe more to magnify and put more color to who you already are because now you have this freedom of time to be able to explore that. I think that's what we mean by begin with the end in mind. What we're going to walk through with Trish this month mirrors how the retirement masterclass is structured in the Rock Retirement Club. We have this great club with meetups and special guests, but we have a standalone course that walks you step by step through building your retirement plan, through identifying your goals, to organizing your resources and finding out what is feasible so you can start to make decisions. And we set it up as a project. We do agile retirement management. We set it up as an agile project. And we always start off the course from 2 perspectives. Because when we're thinking about beginning with the end in mind, one way to do it is to try to dream forward of who you want to become, what things you want to do. Very quantifiable. I want to have this done within this period of time. Some people think very much that way. I don't. I tend not to. When I try to think about all these things I want to accomplish, I have a hard time casting that vision. I tend to dream the other way around, which is minimizing regrets. And we look at some research and some books where we look at the end of life, what do people most look back on and regret? And that's how we begin the course of looking at those that have walked before us that have the opportunity to look back on their life and what are the things they wish they would have minimized. And we're going to review those through the SMART sprints throughout the month. So whether you're a dream forward kind of person or want to minimize regrets, that's where we start in the Rock Retirement course, which is a standalone course that you can do at your own pace. And you can learn more about that at rockretirementclub.com. Now let's go meet Trish. Well, welcome to Retirement Plan Live 2021, Unexpected Retirement. We tried to pick subjects for these case studies that are different. We've had people that spend very little money. We've had people with pensions. We've had single people. We've had married people. This time, we're going to work with someone and talk with someone, Trish, who you're going to meet here in a second, who is 51 and had an unexpected retirement. So that's the big difference for her. A lot of this stuff is getting accelerated from a decision-making process standpoint. And she also happens to be married to her partner, Lynn. So they're a same-sex couple. And I don't think that really creates a lot of wrinkles to it, but it's a little bit different. And we're going to start with just having a conversation with Trish so you can meet her. So let's talk with Trish. Oh, by the way, whoa. Before we talk to Trish, I forgot. We're going to build this throughout the month. So every week in Six Shot Saturday, we're going to share a summary of the conversation that Trish and I have. So you can understand who she is and then what their goals are and then what their finances are. So each week in Six Shot Saturday, which is our weekly email, we're going to send you a summary so you can follow along. And when appropriate, we're going to share a worksheet so you can do the work that Trish and I do on the show of organizing this. And it may help you do it for the first time or rethink some of your plans. So if you're not signed up for our Six Shot Saturday email, you can go to rogerwhitney.com and sign up for that right on the homepage. And then Thursday, the 28th, we're going to have this big meetup. So now we can go talk with Trish. Hello, Tricia.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Roger. Good.
First off, thank you so much for being willing to go through this journey with me and us. It helps a lot, and hopefully we can help you. So who are you? Tell us a little bit about how old are you? We'll start there.
Sure. Well, my name is Tricia. I am 51 years old, and I have a spouse, Lynn, that is 60 years old.
So she's a little bit older.
Yep. She's 9 years older.
Okay. And what happened this year? Or tell us what your plan was, because this was unexpected.
Yes, it was definitely unexpected. So due to COVID and the need for the company to restructure and reduce costs, I was recently let go from Company X.
Company X.
Yes, that I had worked for almost 30 years.
So this was right out of college.
Yes, early 20s. I actually started with a 2-year degree.
Okay.
There. Yep.
So in major company, right?
Major company.
Major
yes,
company.
Major company.
Were you expecting that?
I knew that we were doing layoffs and we were reducing. And actually, my role was a manager. So I was doing that as well with some of my resources. I was not totally surprised that it was coming to me as well. My organization was a duplicate. And so I knew that they would reduce. But I wanted to retire at 55 was the plan. So it was 4 years earlier than what I had wanted.
So if we were sitting here talking a year ago today, pre-COVID, would you have thought that this might have been on the horizon, or did you have confidence that you were going to get to 55?
I had confidence I was going to get to 55. That was the plan for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what is the plan now?
That's what I'm hoping you can kind of help guide me through. I did get a severance, and because I was with the company as long as I was, is almost a year's worth of severance. And so people are like, oh, you're so lucky. You can just sit around for a year. But I have not been doing that. I'm just driven and, you kind of go through all the emotions of like a loss. So I've been angry, I've been sad, I've been walking around my house crying. So I've been applying to jobs and probably not going to find quite the job that I had. And I realize that, but I would like to do something to get me to the age of 55 until my spouse can also retire when she planned to retire.
So do you think applying for jobs is a way of retaining some agency after feeling like you were set aside and reclaiming that I got to get going doing something?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a pride thing too. I mean, there's part of me that I get so angry and I just want to say, I'm going to get a better job, a bigger job with a bigger company. And so it's definitely a pride thing, I think.
And you were 30 years at this large company. And roughly what did you make?
I made $158,000.
Okay.
And with bonuses, like each year bonuses were pretty big there at the end. And so I would be pulling in about over 200,000 each year.
What do you think in your job search as it's going now? Do you think you're going to be able to recreate that?
No, the jobs that I'm seeing out there are half of that, which I can't decide if that's okay or not.
I was going to ask how you felt about that.
Because if you think about it, this is my mind thinking, okay, I got a year's worth of severance. Divide that by the 3 to 4 years I feel like I have left. And then that's the amount that I can reduce off of what I would be making each year on this new job.
So this is really a math calculation for you.
Absolutely.
To try to swallow it, I guess.
Yes.
That's understandable because we sort of have this reality that we've lived in, right? If you take a position, let's say where you're making $100,000 a year and it's a role that you enjoy, do you think that's going to sit okay with you?
I do think it will. There is still a part of me that has this pride and I've got to show them. People have told me that will go away eventually over time. It hasn't yet.
Well, it's fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's understandable. If you could retire today, would you?
I would, yes. However, I am aware that my spouse still needs to probably do 2 to 3 years. So waiting around is going to get old, I think.
And with her being 60, my guess is you two had thought that she was going to be the one that retired first.
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. She's not real happy about the whole thing.
So every time she walks out the door, you go, nah, 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 nah. And so what does she think about all this that has happened with you? Because obviously this is a big pivot for her too to deal with.
It absolutely is. Yeah. And she's devastated. I mean, she grew up as much in Company X as I did with the Christmas parties and the camaraderie and the picnics. So she's devastated. I think she's being strong for me, but it's been hard for her as well, for sure.
It sounds like this is a little bit of an identity crisis all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. That's understandable. Especially, I mean, I always think of Shawshank Redemption. You were institutionalized.
Yes.
You didn't know what it was like to be in the outside world because you were at Company X for so long.
That is correct.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, as I'm looking for other employment, I'm looking at companies that are very similar to Company X.
How so?
Large corporations versus entrepreneurial. That scares me. And so I shy away from those.
Because it feels safe?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it was safe until this year.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay. So once you get through this shock, it seems that the way you're expressing yourself, you're still in shock or mourning over what just happened, right? You want to get back at them. You want to get a better job and show them that phase, which is natural. When you get through that phase, which you do you think you would retire if you could?
Yes. Yeah. I might do something fun, and I don't know what that would be.
Yeah.
I've threatened to work at the zoo or something like that. But yeah.
So prior to all of this, in your mind, did you think of retirement as somewhat binary? I'm either working or I'm retired?
Yes. I think both me and my spouse think that way. And we could not wait. I mean, we have been counting down the years and planning to get to retirement.
I sort of go back to Shawshank Redemption. It makes me think of somebody in their cell checking the marks on the wall until their release date.
Right. And here I am looking for another cell.
And a dirtier one because it doesn't pay as much.
Right.
Okay, so there's possibly some things that you can reframe. What's interesting, Tricia, is people that are an older vintage of you, when I talk to them and when I survey and I ask them what they call retirement, they focus more on time freedom than not working, right? Having more control over their time, which is probably a little foreign to you because you've had to submit for vacations and you were run by a system.
Right.
In a lot of ways. So do you think of retirement now, if you could retire now or even at 55, would you never work again?
Yeah, I do think I would never work again.
All right. Well, then just so I make sure I'm clear, define what never work again means. What's work?
Somebody's telling you how you have to spend your time, I think. I would like that freedom of being able to spend my time how I would want.
Okay. How clearly have you defined how you would want?
Probably not very clearly.
So when you and Lynn have talked about the days, as you're checking off the marks in the cell, what kind of things do you talk about?
Okay. So, the dream was to get a place in a warmer area. We go between Florida or Arizona, somewhere warmer. And we had talked about getting it and living in between for a couple years and then selling the place in the Midwest and permanently moving to the warmer weather.
Okay.
And so that was always our dream. And we have rentals and we were divesting our rentals to get ready to do that.
So you were already a little bit on the approach.
We were on the approach. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. And then, so now it's just a storm came in, so you need to adjust your approach to maybe a different runway. Okay. I like metaphors, obviously.
That's good.
Well, let me ask you this. I think this is interesting because the description you gave me about where you want to be, how fleshed out is, okay, you're in Florida, you're in Arizona, you're splitting time, whatever. Well, once you do that, what do you do every day?
Yeah. We go to the beach every day. We drink drinks with little umbrellas in them.
Every day.
Every day. And see, that's the thing. I know that will get old quickly is what I've been told from people. So I don't know.
Okay.
In my mind, it's not working.
It sounds a lot better than what is, right?
Yes. Yes.
When you're in the cell, back to Shawshank Redemption. It was the beach in Mexico, wasn't it?
Yep.
Let's go watch that movie again. So many parallels to you and whatever his name was. So let me ask it this way. I like to look at the top 5 regrets at the end of life. For me, anyway, it's a good way of looking at it. And some of them was, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard, right? Because we sacrifice ourselves to our work. Yep. Another one was, I wish I had given myself permission to live the life that I wanted, living other people's dreams. You're young. You must be young because I'm 53 and I'm young. Let's transport yourself to being 80 years old. Okay, let's assume you can retire today and you're 80 years old. Looking back, what would you have liked to have accomplished?
So what I always wanted to do was be able to rent a big old house in Key West and fly my sisters and their spouses down for a week or two and do that annually. Okay. All expense paid. Here you go. Let's just spend quality time together where you don't have to worry about the cost. That's what I'd like to do.
Okay. That's a very specific dream. When someone talked about your life, what would you want their comments to be?
That I was giving, that I had fun, that I was a family person and would pull the family together. I find, although I'm the youngest of all the siblings, that I tend to be the caretaker. So I imagine that role will continue.
Okay. What would Lynn say? Can you speak for her?
Yeah, she is very family oriented, big family around the area, but she does want to move, but she will stay close to family. And I think we've also, with her family, have taken siblings and nieces and nephews to vacation with us, different areas. And that's always been a fun thing to do. So yes, she's kind of is in that same cut of the cloth as well with family.
Okay. So to end this first conversation, I always like to start with the end in mind. And you were kind enough to share a little bit of your story and go through this process semi-publicly. Obviously, this isn't your real name. That's not Lynn's real name. We don't know who Company X is. We're going to change a lot of information, keep it true to the story of you and Lynn, but protect you a little bit. What is it that you want to accomplish through this process?
So the loss of my job has been devastating to our plans and to just me personally from a confidence standpoint, I guess. So I want to get past that. I want to feel comfortable that I'm ready for this next chapter and get myself organized. I thought I had 4 years to do that, and now it's boom on me. So I just need some help, some hand holding to help get me organized.
Okay, what else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Get past the shock.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like one part is you're angry, you want to get back at them. You're in that, I want to prove, I'll show them stage. So get past that, have confidence on the next chapter, and then get organized because you felt like this has all been accelerated much quicker than you wanted it to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I kind of want to understand, how big can I dream?
See, there was something else. There was something else.
Yeah. How big can I dream? Can I still retire now, or do I need to get a bigger job? How big of a job do I need and still be able to buy that warm weather condo or house or townhome or whatever?
Okay.
And then how much can we spend on family and enjoying family and trips and things like that?
Okay. And so in our next chat, we're going to just focus on dreaming big and fleshing that out. And the interesting thing with you relative to past retirement plan lives that we have is this first one, the more non-financial side of feeling like you just got dumped and getting past not letting it define you and define your professional career and your work life so you can lean forward in building Trisha 2.0, right? Trisha and Lynn
Right.
2.0. Okay, we'll try. So that's the benchmark. Get past the shock, confidence in the next chapter, get organized, and then how big can we dream, you and Lynn? And so let's do that next session.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Well, we have one more prior subject, Sam, who we did a retirement plan live with some time ago. And we'll put the episodes in Six Shots Saturday. And I wanted to make sure we caught up with Sam, and we couldn't fit it into last month because the parent project was so big. So I wanted to make sure we shared Sam's update because she has some very interesting perspectives now that she's a few years into retirement that might be helpful for you. So let's go talk with Sam. So back in May of 2018, Sam, our single pre-retiree, came on the show, and she's here with us. Hey, Sam, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's so good to see you again, Roger.
Yeah, I really appreciate you be willing to catch up with us.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And so in May of 2018, if I recall, because you and I were chatting, how long ago was that? It felt like it was a while ago. You were still working.
Yeah.
And you have since retired.
Mm-hmm.
So is it exactly like the brochure's promise?
Not at all. And I think all the speculation in the world can't really prepare you for what it's going to be like. You just kind of have to take the leap. And I am not at all sorry that I retired early. In fact, I sort of made it an extravaganza. I retired on the weekend that I turned 60, and that was the same weekend I retired. So it was sort of a dual event. So I had solid reasons for wanting to retire when I did, and those things have played out for the most part. Not always as I thought they would, but I don't regret my decision.
Yeah. So if I recall, and you were updating me a little bit before, is a couple of the motivations to retire was to spend more time with your parents who were elderly and to spend more time with your significant other. Mm-hmm. And so how did those turn out, those two things?
Well, I had a really good year with both my parents for the first retirement year. Got to spend a lot more time with them. And my dad and I collaborated on a family history that he talked and I wrote, and I put it together for the entire family. It's not anything anybody outside the family would be interested in, but it was great to have that time with him and hear his stories. Unfortunately, his health continued to decline and he passed away about a year ago.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. That has shifted the responsibilities concerning my mom. So that has really become a focus of my retirement now. And I'm grateful to have that time. I can't imagine how people do it that are caring for elderly parents and working full time, because it's a lot. And ironically, I do all of her finances. She has a good investment counselor, so I don't do that, but I do help pay her bills and keep track of things for her. So that was good. And then my significant other and I parted ways about a year ago also. So that freed up some time, but I've filled it with other things. I became a grandmother for the first time, and I babysit my very sweet grandson one day a week and help out in ways that I can. So that was all great. And I didn't really get launched into my retirement with any sort of purposeful way. I was just doing a little of this and a little of that and waiting to see what would happen. Didn't actually take any really big trips, and that was something I wanted to do, but I didn't get that done. And then, here came the pandemic. So that has sort of slowed some of that down for me, and I'm in a holding pattern.
Okay. Well, I have a bunch of questions from what you just shared, which is a great update. First off, and probably most importantly, because this is a thing now, do you have a particular thing that you're supposed to be called as a grandmother?
Yeah, well, I had decided that a while back, and it was completely selfishly motivated because I wanted to be called something that I thought the children would be able to say pretty soon, early on. So I picked Mimi because we already have a Nana in our family. So I picked Mimi, and sure enough, that little guy, he got that pretty early. So
Very smart.
Out.
Mimi. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. My grandmother on my father's side, her name was Nag Nag.
Oh,
I'm not sure how that came about, but she loved it. Anyway, Mimi. Okay. And then we just finished last month the Parent Project, which was about taking care of elderly parents. And we heard a lot of stories. And the first thing that struck me was what a blessing that first year was, not just to spend time with your parents, but the fact that you were able to do that project with your dad and to hear him tell the stories in his own words and you be the scribe. Wow.
Yeah, that was really great. And, we looked at pictures and I did some recordings of his voice. And so I have all of that.
Yeah. And like if you had continued working and you didn't know that you're going to go the direction so quickly.
Yeah.
And then obviously the significant other that in COVID, all those things happened. So tell us a little bit about where you're at now. I mean, obviously we're in COVID and that doesn't sound like you have quite gotten to the go-go years.
No. And ironically, I was in the midst of planning a trip to Europe when COVID came and things shut down. And I had some sort of intuition. I'd get on and I'd look and I'd be like, book this flight. And then I'd think, and then I wouldn't book it. And then I'd go back to it the next day. Then I was like, oh, thank goodness I didn't book this because the timing was just all wrong. But I did make a trip to Southern California and had a very nice stateside trip right at the beginning of March and got home just in time. And so that was good. I have done a fair amount of traveling in my own state and have really developed sort of an interest in the history of my state and a lot of the historical places. And it's been, of course, more easy to stay in state. Now, that's not even really a good idea. I'm not going anywhere, but earlier I was. Yeah. So that's been good. And I'm reading tons. I'm reading, which was something when I worked, I never wanted to do because I was so burned out from reading it at work. So now I do a lot of that. So that's great. And more time for physical things. I'm walking on a more regular basis and yoga and hiking more and riding my bicycle. So I was scheduled to go in October on a bike ride along the Greater Allegheny Passage with a group of friends. And so we've tabled that and hope to go next fall.
Okay. Yeah. So COVID has definitely disrupted a lot of things. Now, is your mother local?
Yes.
Okay. So is she living independently?
Well, yes, we were looking at places. We were visiting some of these really fun, action-packed retirement places for her to go. And then COVID came and she was afraid to go ahead and move in because she thought that it would limit her being able to see us, that she wouldn't be able to come out. We wouldn't be able to go in. So she's kind of put that on hold. So we've done a little work on her home and got her a new heater and some of the infrastructure that's allowing her to stay there. But it's a full-time job keeping her safe. She's 86 years old and has some pre-existing conditions, and there's a lot of emotional distraction for her.
It's had a much bigger impact on elderly parents. I mean, I think we know it intellectually, but unless you're around it.
Right.
From a loneliness and just worry standpoint. And yeah. So I'm curious, when we were planning, I always talk about being inside the Coke bottle and trying to guess what it's like outside.
Yeah.
But you can't really see well because the Coke bottle is, hard to see out of. And so now you're outside of the Coke bottle. So when it comes to the spending estimates that we did back in 2018, were we or you in the ballpark? What's different than what you expected from life and spending and all that?
No, not really. Of course, I'm actually spending less now with the COVID.
Not by choice.
But yeah, before that, and I've invested in some things around my house that has sort of, I'm like, oh, well, I go to Europe, so I guess I'll do this, that are sort of lifestyle enhancements for being stuck at home so much. But no, I think it's been okay. The thing that has really just been so painful for me, and I knew this was coming, but the reality of it is paying for medical insurance. That is huge amount of money. So I just think, well, I have to be insured, and I'm grateful to have being able to do that. But that is a big thing. And I'm not wishing my life away. I don't want to be Medicare age before it's time to do that. But the one thing that has really helped me with that is that I started tracking my spending completely every month. I have an app that I go into and I categorize all of my spending. And so being able to see that wasn't something I ever really truly did when I was working. I just had money and I spent it. But doing that has helped because I got a really good CPA also. And so working with her and being able to itemize my expenses has in a tiny way helped offset some of the extra expenses for the health insurance and stuff.
Yeah. Was it more than you anticipated?
Well, no, but it goes up every year. It's gone up a little bit every year, but it's a lot of money. My mortgage and my health insurance and my car payment are my three big expenses every month.
Yeah. So, and there are things that really, they're not in your control, like eating out or traveling or something like that.
Right. Yeah, those are fixed expenses for sure.
I was just refinanced my mortgage and we're in Texas, which we have higher property taxes. Yeah. And I'm like, well, maybe I should just pay off the house. The rate was so low. Now my payment for my taxes on a monthly basis is higher than my principal and interest payment because our taxes are so high. So like, well, if I paid all that off, I'd lose all that liquidity and I'd still have this big payment every month just for taxes. That will never go away.
Right.
So I get what you're saying there.
One of the other things that's been big for me is I have this real estate, and I think we talked about this before. I have this property that I inherited, and it's the classic non-producing asset because, it just sits there. And I was leasing it out and somebody was farming it for me. And there's been a big kerfluffle over the taxes and how that's calculated and proving that it's farmland, it's agricultural versus residential. And so I've had to be really rigorous about keeping somebody leasing it. I'm not going to be farming it. So, I've had to work with people. But I finally got up the gumption to get that property listed, thinking that it was really going to take a long time to sell it, but knowing that the market is pretty hot right now, at least in residential, and listed that property and got an offer within like the first 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so this is all evolving. In fact, I was just on the phone with the realtor prior to this call and got a second offer at the nth hour. So now I feel like this is going to take some of the pressure off me because I'll have this cash and I can put it into my investments and actually start earning money on it instead of it just sitting there. It's an emotional thing for me to let go of this family property that we've had in our family since the 1930s. But, it's like I'm part of all farmland in America. It's being gobbled up by the machine, of progress.
Yeah. And sometimes that legacy stuff becomes a little bit of a burden.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the emotional and legacy obligations that we put on ourselves.
But I feel very fortunate that I have it, because that was a big chunk of my long-term retirement planning. And now I can kind of go, well, phew, I am retired and now I got this money. So here we go. Makes me feel a little more secure that I'm not going to outlive my money.
So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And it's a biggie. It's a doozy. And that is, here we are in January. What are you most excited about? I mean, first off, I know you're excited that 2020 is over. We all are.
I will be, yeah.
Yeah. And then what are you most excited about for the year?
For the next year, for 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
I am excited about traveling. Yeah, I really do. I haven't suffered compared to so many people in the United States. My lifestyle has become a little smaller, but I basically have a nice home and I'm comfortable and I have money and my kids are all gainfully employed. I'm not having to care for them. And, of course, we're all concerned about our health. But for me personally, I want to get out and start enjoying my retirement time. And if I can get my mom settled in a place where I know she's safe and well cared for, I'm going to be online and booking those flights and get going.
I think there's a little bit of pent up demand to be able to just be out.
Yeah.
Be out.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm tired of wearing sweatpants. When you work at home every day because you don't go out, it's like, I might as well just put on sweatpants.
Yeah. I know. I go in my closet and all my employment clothes are still in there. And I'm like, really? Look at all these clothes I have. But I guess I could clean it out. But I keep thinking, well, what if something happens and I have to go back to work? I better have some clothes, So.
Yeah, we'll have to do a series on how long that
But
lasts.
I wear basically, I wear the same 10 or 15 things over and over and over again. So,
well, okay. I will look forward to hearing another update on all of your travel, but I want to thank you for sharing some update over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's always good to catch up and keep doing the good work that you're doing. I know that you had a very positive influence on me and provided me a lot of really good perspective. And ultimately, I just had to take the leap of faith, and I'm glad that I did. So
go you, go you.
On your marks, get set.
And we're off to set a little baby step that we can take in the next 7 days to not just live a great life, but to rock it. Now, we did this a few years ago, and each week highlighted one of the top regrets people at the end of life have had looking backwards. And this comes from an Australian hospice nurse who's written a book, and we'll share a link to that in Six Shot Saturday. The name escapes me at the top of my head. But also, there's been a lot of other research that has looked at these. So I thought we'd just share one every week. And the first regret I want to talk about is, I think this is the number one regret people have had. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself. Ooh, that's a powerful one. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself. When you're young and growing up and becoming a teenager and going to college and getting a job or getting married, we all have different journeys of our confidence level, of our self-awareness, of what we really enjoy and what we don't. And many times we don't really start to fully form who we are until midlife. For me, I felt like I really found my sea legs of who I really am in my mid-40s. And what happens when you find this, whatever age you are, where everything that happened prior to that, you form these, I don't want to call them cages, but these boundaries, jobs, careers, obligations, marriages, and everything else that were formed prior to you really knew who you were. And you have obligations, raising the children, your career, all the people that you're responsible to. And those are important things that we do. But in retirement, it really ends up being one of those first times, potentially the first time ever, where the work obligations go away, the children are launched. You can reorganize your life, where you live, how you commute, what you do every day, what your schedule looks like. It's almost a blank slate. Not quite, but it's almost a blank slate. And that's an opportunity, because maybe you're living a life true to yourself. Maybe you always have. Beautiful. But maybe there's not been fully congruent internally. now's your chance to revisit that and become more congruent with what you believe your true self to be, so you can minimize that regret. Something to think about. Having the courage to live a life true to yourself. That's what we need to do. Well, I hope your 2021 is starting off well. We have lots going on this year on the show, and I'm so excited to be walking this journey with you. And have a great week, okay? Hey, it's time for that all-important disclaimer. We so appreciate you listening to the show and love your questions and love the teaching that we're able to provide here. And actually, it helps us too. But remember, you're not our clients.
Not love it if you took advice from us on the show.
We would not love it if you took advice from us on the show. Realize this is helpful in education. Talk to your legal advisor, your tax advisor, or your financial advisor before you make any decisions.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.